Hello YouTube. Today I wanted to start a new series I'm calling Tarot Topics. I also have a series of the same name on my blog, but this is going to cover different topics from the blog, so I'll also link that below. Today, the first topic I wanted to start with was talking a little bit about cycles in the tarot. So I've been reading, studying, interested in the tarot for less than a year, so I'm relatively new. But one thing that I found really useful in understanding both the majors and the minors is the concept of cycles. So for example, I think it was more obvious to me with the majors, in the idea that the reason the Fool is 0 and not 1 is that the Fool is at the beginning and the end of the story. So, which to me actually makes the World card a little less scary because it doesn't feel like it's the end and the grand enlightenment or whatever, but it's actually just the end of one cycle. And then once you get to the World in that cycle, you come back to the Fool. So that made sense to me, but I think it took a little longer to understand that the same exact thing really is happening with the minors. So when I first started learning about the minors, I was struck by the fact that the swords and the wands suits seem to both end at kind of a bad place, and then the cups and the pentacles seem to end at kind of a good place, and that bothered me, I think especially with the wands, because I was like, great, is the end of passion and like excitement and projects always going to be failure and burnout, and I don't want to do this anymore. That's kind of depressing. So I think it was really helpful to me to think again about a cycle and to realize that, yeah, like in some ways the end of passion is usually burnout, but it's more just a sense of like, we are usually passionate and interested in a thing and it comes around and you get to a point where you're done with it and then you come to the next thing. And like maybe there are multiple wand cycles happening in your life at any given time. And actually it's been really healing for me to let go of particular passions that I realize are like 10 of wands and way past it in some ways, and that are just taking up space in my life. So clearing out favorited articles, blog posts, like, to-do items that relate to a passion that I just don't have anymore, to me is a really like an acknowledgement that we're at the 10 of Wands place, we're at the end of that cycle. And then if I think about the cups and the pentacles, like it is true that they both end in kind of a place of abundance and feeling fulfilled and having things around you. But that's not to say that that's the end of the story. Like they don't have to represent. And I think at first, especially when I saw the 10 of Pentacles at first, I thought, okay, this is like the end of life, or this is the place that you get to when you retire. But reminding myself that the minors aren't about necessarily big life forces, but they're about some of the smaller things, and so those cycles are continually happening. And so I can think, for example, of multiple times I've hit a sort of 10 of Pentacles place in my life, like maybe the first time that I was self-sufficient and didn't rely on my parents financially, which was just after college. Like that was the end of a Pentacles cycle. But then I was working a shitty job and I was barely making enough money, so then another end of a Pentacles cycle might have been like when I could afford to when I was not living paycheck to paycheck. Like that is the end of a Pentacles cycle. And then another Pentacles cycle ended when like I got my first job where I could really invest or like save for the future. So I keep hitting places on the cycle, or multiple cycles I should say, and then come back to a new opportunity, an Ace of Pentacles, going through it, building skills, getting better at something so that I can then earn more money or do things with my home or whatever that means for that cycle. I think it's a little harder for me to think about it with the cups, but it does happen. I think like emotionally, ups and downs. I can definitely think of times when I felt really fulfilled and times when I didn't. I think and sometimes it's more sudden. It doesn't feel like a straight up cycle and more like we're hopping all over the place. But I think that's the cool thing about tarot is you can pull cards that represent different points of different cycles even within that suit, or you can be like experiencing two bits at the same time, or you can be moving backwards, so there's a lot of different options. But I think just like that is a lesson that I'm really grateful for, to understand the way cycles work and then to think like about the different cycles in my life. So if you're also relatively new to tarot, like I would recommend trying to do kind of like a storytelling exercise and think about where different cards have shown up in your life and then how different cycles for the suits have played out. And did they go through the cycle in order? Did they skip around? Did they go backwards for a bit and then forwards? Think about that kind of, if you're into astrology, like you had a retrograde moment and now you're going direct again. It's very common. And like, how did different cycles intersect? Were you towards the end of a cup cycle while you were starting a new wand cycle, or were they kind of going together, or were you in multiple cycles of the same suit? Like thinking about that, journaling about that, I think can be really interesting. Okay, so that's it for the first tarot topics. If there is a specific topic that you would like me to cover, please leave a comment below and don't forget to like and subscribe. All right, thanks.